The Battle of Sol ended exactly 37 minutes after it began. When the last Vorthak ship powered down its weapons in surrender, the space around Earth was filled with debris and disabled alien vessels. But not a single human ship had even a scratch on its hull. Admiral Deho stood in his command center, looking at the tactical display that showed the complete destruction of what had once been the most feared fleet in the galaxy. 200 enemy ships had come to conquer Earth. Now, 160 were destroyed, and 40 were floating helplessly in space, their crews unconscious or too terrified to resist. "Sir," Lieutenant Bora Park reported, "we're receiving surrender messages from 17 different alien species across the galaxy. Word of the battle is spreading faster than we expected." "Of course it is," Deho replied calmly. "News like this doesn't stay secret. How many worlds are asking for our protection?" Commander Wu Jin Lee checked his communications board. 43 worlds so far, sir. They're all former Vorthak territories. They want to join something called the Terran Federation. Deho raised an eyebrow. "The Terran Federation? I like the sound of that." Captain So Young Choi's voice came from her ship in orbit. "Admiral, we've secured the surviving alien vessels." "What are your orders?" "Bring the commanders down to Earth for questioning," Deho replied. "But treat the regular crew members well. Most of them were probably just following orders. It's the leaders we need to have conversations with." 3 hours later, Supreme Commander Vextar found himself in a small, simple room deep underground in Seoul. He sat across from Admiral Deho at a plain metal table, with 2 cups of coffee between them. The human had removed his military uniform and was wearing simple civilian clothes. "Drink," Deho said, pushing 1 cup toward the alien commander. "It's coffee. A human beverage. It won't hurt you." Vextar stared at the cup suspiciously. "Why are you being kind to me?" "I came to destroy your world." "Yes, you did," Deho agreed. "And you failed completely. But you're not evil, just stupid. There's a difference." The blunt words made Vextar flinch. "Stupid? You conquered 17 worlds by picking on people weaker than yourself. That's not strategy, that's bullying. Did you ever think about what would happen when you finally met someone stronger?" Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he picked up the coffee cup and took a small sip. It was bitter but somehow comforting. "No," he admitted. "The Empire has been winning for so long I forgot that losing was possible." "That's going to change," Deho said. "The galaxy is about to become a very different place." He was right. Even as they spoke, the news of humanity's victory was spreading to every corner of known space. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, had been crushed in less than an hour by a species most aliens had never heard of. On the planet Zephyr, a blue-skinned people called the Zalari received the news with tears of joy. They had been slaves to the Vorthak Empire for 10 years, forced to mine crystals for alien weapons. Now their overseer was running away, and strange human ships were appearing in their skies. Captain Tae Min Kang, commanding the battlecruiser Yulji Mundiok, opened communications with the Zalari leaders. "This is Captain Kang of the Terran Federation. You are now under our protection. Any Vorthak forces remaining in your system have 24 hours to leave peacefully, or we will remove them." The Zalari leader, an elderly female named Whisper of Stars, could barely speak through her tears. Are we really free?" "You are free," Taemin confirmed. "And if you want to join the Terran Federation, we promise that no one will ever enslave your people again." Similar scenes were playing out across dozens of worlds. The Unkomo, a peaceful race of plant-like beings who had been forced to grow food for Vorthak armies. The Bright Swimmers, an aquatic species whose oceans had been polluted by alien mining operations. The Rock Singers, whose beautiful stone cities had been bombed into rubble. All of them were sending the same message to Earth. "Please, let us join you. Protect us from those who would hurt us." 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Ambassador Su Jin-oh walked into the Grand Assembly Hall on the neutral space station New Geneva. She was a small woman in her 50s with short gray hair and a quiet, confident manner. But when she entered the hall, every alien representative in the room stood up. The Galactic Council had been meeting here for over 1,000 years. In all that time, humanity had never been invited to attend. Earth had been considered too primitive, too young, too unimportant to have a voice in galactic affairs. Now Ambassador Su Jin was taking the seat at the head of the council table. The seat that belonged to the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. The chair recognizes the representative of the Terran Federation, announced the council secretary, a humbled Vorthak who had been aboard one of the ships at the Battle of Solsu Jin stood up and looked around the room. Representatives from 40 different species looked back at her with a mixture of respect, fear, and curiosity. "Thank you," she said in a clear, calm voice. "Before we begin today's session, I want to make something very clear. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to conquer anyone or force our will on others." She paused, letting her words be translated into dozens of different languages. "But," she continued, "we will not allow bullies to hurt innocent people. We will not stand by while the strong prey upon the weak, and we will not hesitate to act when civilizations like the old Vorthak Empire decide that might makes right." The room was completely silent. Everyone remembered what had happened to the unstoppable Vorthak fleet. "The Terran Federation is open to all species that want to live in peace," Sujin continued. "We offer protection to those who need it, friendship to those who want it, and trade to those who desire it. But to those who choose violence and conquest," she smiled slightly, and everyone in the room recognized that smile. It was the same expression Admiral Deho had worn before the battle. "To those who choose violence," Sujin said quietly, "we offer the same thing we gave to Supreme Commander Vextar and his fleet, a lesson in why humans don't make good victims." Back on Earth, Admiral Deho, now Fleet Admiral of Terran Space Command, sat in his office, looking out at the stars through a large window. On his desk was a simple wooden plaque with an old human saying carved into it, "Walk softly and carry a big stick." Captain So Young entered with her daily report. She now wore the uniform of a fleet captain, having been promoted after the battle. "Sir," she said, "3 more star systems have requested to join the Federation today. The Humming Crystals, the Deep Dwellers, and a group of former Vorthak colonies calling themselves the Free Scales." "How many does that make total?" Deho asked. 112 worlds, sir, and growing every day." Deho nodded thoughtfully. "And the research projects?" "Proceeding ahead of schedule," So Young replied. "The new ship designs are ready for testing, and the scientists say they've made breakthroughs in dimensional engineering that will make our current technology look primitive." "Good," Deho said. "We need to stay ahead of the curve. Word is already spreading about human technology. It won't be long before other empires start trying to copy what we've done." "Will they succeed?" So Young asked. Deho's smile was the same one he had worn on the day the Vorthak Empire learned not to underestimate humanity. "Let them try," he said. "They'll discover what the Vorthak learned, that there's a big difference between copying human technology and understanding human thinking." He turned back to the window, looking out at the stars where human ships now patrolled, protecting dozens of worlds and hundreds of billions of beings. "Besides," he added quietly, "by the time they figure out what we used yesterday, we'll already have tomorrow's weapons ready." The galaxy had learned a new lesson. When humans smile before a fight, it's already too late for their enemies. And across the stars, in 100 languages and 1,000 dialects, the same message was being whispered. Earth was no longer the small, primitive world at the edge of civilization. Earth was home to the apex predators of the galaxy, and they were just getting started. The battle was no longer a battle. It was a lesson in humility, taught by humanity to an empire that had forgotten what it meant to lose. Supreme Commander Vextar floated in the strange space that had once been his command bridge. His flagship, the mighty Bloodfang, was now something impossible to describe. The walls breathed like living things. The floor was made of what looked like solid starlight. His weapon systems had become gardens of crystal flowers that sang in harmonies no Vorthak ear could understand. "What have they done to us?" he whispered. Around him, his surviving crew members drifted in the transformed space. They were alive, but their ship was no longer a ship. It was something new, something that human science had made by rewriting the very laws of physics. General Krexhan's voice came through a communication crystal that had once been a radio. "My lord, the humans are... they're speaking to us." Admiral Deho's image appeared in the space above Vextar, projected by technology the alien commander couldn't understand. The human looked older than Vextar had expected, with gray hair and a lined face, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent, and when he smiled, it was not a kind smile. "Greetings, Supreme Commander Vexitar," Deho said in perfect Vorthak language. I am Admiral Kim Deho of the Terran Defense Force. I believe you wanted to have a conversation with us. Vextar tried to speak, but no words came. In 30 years of conquest, he had never been in this position. He had always been the one giving ultimatums, never receiving them. You seem surprised, Deho continued. Perhaps you expected this to go differently. You came to our world with 200 ships thinking you would find helpless primitives. Instead, you found humans. The word humans was spoken with quiet pride as if it explained everything. Impossible, Vextar finally managed to say. You barely have starflight. Your world shows no signs of advanced technology. Deho's smile grew slightly wider. Did you ever consider that maybe we didn't want you to see our advanced technology? That maybe we've been watching you and learning about you while you thought we were ignorant? Around the transformed flagship, the battle continued. But it wasn't really a battle anymore. The human ships moved through the trapped alien fleet like farmers harvesting crops. Each shot was precise. Each target was chosen carefully. And every alien ship that was struck simply ceased to be a threat. Captain So Young Choi, piloting the Taeguk, spoke to her crew as they approached another enemy vessel. Disable, don't destroy. The Admiral wants prisoners for questioning. Her weapons officer nodded. Using neural disruptor beams, Captain. The beam that struck the alien cruiser didn't hurt the ship or its crew. Instead, it put every living thing aboard into a peaceful sleep. The ship itself shut down safely, floating dead in space but ready to be boarded. Another one secured, So Young reported to Admiral Deho. That makes 50 ships captured intact. Excellent work, Deho replied. We're going to need to study their technology, and their crew members will have interesting stories to tell. Lieutenant Woo Jin Lee, monitoring the battle from Earth, gave updates. Sir, we've eliminated or captured 160 enemy vessels. Only 40 remain and they're all trapped in the gravity fields. Good. And our casualties? 0, sir. Not even minor damage to any of our ships. Admiral Deho turned his attention back to Supreme Commander Vextar, who was listening to every word with growing horror. You seem confused, Deho said. Let me explain what's happening. 20 years ago, our scientists discovered something interesting about space and time. We learned that reality is much more flexible than most people think. We learned how to bend it, shape it, and use it as a weapon. He gestured, and the space around Vextar showed images of human laboratories, scientists working with equipment that seemed to glow with inner light, and weapons being tested that could do impossible things. We also discovered that we're not alone in the galaxy. Deho continued. We found evidence of other civilizations, including yours. We watched you conquer world after world. We studied your tactics, your technology, and your weaknesses. The images changed, showing Vorthak ships attacking defenseless planets, cities burning, and millions of beings forced into slavery. We decided, Deho said, his voice growing colder, that when you finally came to Earth, we would be ready. Vextar found his voice again. You were preparing for us specifically? Not just you, Deho replied. Any bully who thought they could come to our home and make demands. But yes, we knew about the Vorthak Empire. We knew you would come eventually. We've been waiting. Captain Min Ho Sung's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, the remaining enemy ships are trying to surrender. Multiple vessels broadcasting capitulation signals. Deho looked directly at Vextar. Your surviving ships want to surrender. What do you think I should tell them? Vextar's mind raced. Everything he had believed about the galaxy was wrong. These humans weren't primitive mammals. They were apex predators who had disguised themselves as prey, waiting for the right moment to strike. You planned all of this, he said. Every detail, Deho confirmed. We knew you would come with overwhelming force because that's what bullies do. We knew you would underestimate us because you've never met real resistance. And we knew that when you saw our true capabilities, you would finally understand what humans really are. Around them, the last few alien ships were being methodically disabled. The great Vorthak fleet, which had conquered 17 worlds, was being completely destroyed by a force they had thought was helpless. What are humans? Vextar asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Admiral Deho's smile disappeared completely. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet but filled with absolute certainty. We are the species that other species have nightmares about. We are the hunters who look like prey until it's too late. We are the ones who turn your own strength against you and make it look easy. He paused. letting the words sink in. Most of all, Daeho continued, we are the species that doesn't forgive bullies who threaten our home. The communication ended, leaving Vexitar floating in the impossible space that had once been his flagship. Around him, the debris of his shattered fleet drifted in the vacuum, proof that the Vorthak Empire had finally met something stronger than itself. For the first time in the Empire's history, they had found an enemy they couldn't defeat. And that enemy had been waiting for them all along. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. And every species in the galaxy was about to learn that Earth was not a world to be conquered. It was a world to be feared. Chaos filled the space around Earth. Red alien ships fired wildly in all directions, their weapons lighting up the darkness like angry lightning. But they were shooting at ghosts. Every time they thought they had a target, the human ships would vanish like smoke. General Krexhan stood on his bridge, watching his perfect formation fall apart. In just 10 minutes, he had lost 30 ships. 30 vessels, each one worth more than some planets, simply erased from existence. And he still didn't understand how. Report! He screamed at his tactical officer. Sir, the humans are using some kind of technology we've never seen. Our sensors show them there one moment, gone the next. When they appear, they fire weapons that ignore our shields completely. Another explosion lit up space as the cruiser Void Ripper disappeared in a flash of twisted reality. That made 31 ships lost. Impossible, Krexhan snarled. They're primitives. They barely have starflight. But the evidence was right in front of him. Whatever these humans were, they weren't primitives. Captain Jihai Yang piloted her corvette Docto through the alien formation like a dancer moving through still water. Her ship would appear, strike, and vanish again before the enemy could even turn their weapons toward her. 3 fighters incoming, her weapons officer reported. I see them, Jihai replied calmly. The alien pilots were good, veterans who had fought in dozens of battles. Their ships were fast and their weapons were deadly. Against any normal enemy they would have been unstoppable, but Jihai wasn't flying a normal ship. Engaging quantum phase shift, she said. The Docto flickered between dimensions. The alien fighters fired their best shots, beams of pure energy that could melt steel. The weapons passed harmlessly through empty space where the corvette had been a heartbeat before. Jihai's return fire was different. Instead of trying to hit the alien ships directly, her plasma lances struck the space around them. Reality bent and twisted, creating gravity wells that grabbed all 3 fighters at once. The alien pilots had time to scream before their ships were crushed into tiny balls of metal. Targets eliminated, Jihai reported, moving to next position. Captain Min Ho Sung, commanding the destroyer Hwarang, found himself facing a much larger challenge. An alien battleship twice the size of his vessel had noticed him and was turning to attack. Sir, his weapons officer Yoonji said, that's the Star Crusher. Intelligence says it's destroyed 3 planets by itself. Then it's time for retirement, Minho replied. Yoonji, load the quantum torpedoes. The alien battleship fired first. A massive beam of red energy shot across space, powerful enough to boil oceans. It struck exactly where the Hwarang had been floating, but Minho's ship was already elsewhere, appearing above the enemy vessel like a striking hawk. Fire torpedoes, he ordered. The quantum torpedoes weren't like normal missiles. They didn't fly through space. They moved through the spaces between spaces, traveling through dimensions that most scientists didn't even know existed. The Star Crusher tried to defend itself. Its shields powered up to maximum. Its point defense systems fired hundreds of shots to stop the incoming weapons. Nothing worked. The torpedoes passed through the shields as if they were made of light. They passed through the armor as if it were paper. They struck the ship's power core and did something that the alien engineers had thought was impossible. They made the contained fusion reaction collapse in on itself. The battleship that had destroyed 3 worlds folded up like origami and vanished. Supreme Commander. Vextar watched the battle from his flagship with growing terror. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. His forces were the most powerful in the galaxy. They had crushed every enemy they had ever faced. Sir, his communications officer said with a trembling voice, General Krexhan is requesting immediate reinforcements. What reinforcements? Vextar snapped. This is our entire elite fleet. Sir, we've lost 60 ships in 20 minutes. The humans are... They're not what we thought they were. Vexitar stared at the battle display. Red dots representing his ships were disappearing one by one. The blue dots of the human fleet seemed to be everywhere at once, striking and vanishing like deadly spirits. Admiral Deho watched the same battle from his command center on Earth, but his display told a very different story. Not a single human ship had taken damage. Not one casualty. Not even a scratch on their paint. Status report, he requested calmly. Captain So Young's voice came from the Teguk. Sir, we've eliminated over half their fleet. No damage to any of our vessels. The enemy is starting to break formation. She was right. The careful battle lines that the aliens had maintained were falling apart. Ships were breaking away, trying to escape the ghostly human vessels that could appear anywhere. Bora, Deho said to his tactical officer, activate the gravitic mines. Lieutenant Bora Park's fingers moved across her control panel. Mines activated, sir, creating spatial distortion fields around the entire enemy fleet. In space around the alien ships, reality began to bend in new ways. The mines that the humans had placed while their ships were cloaked created pockets of twisted space-time. Suddenly, the Vorthak vessels found that they couldn't move in straight lines. Their engines pushed them forward, but space itself was curved, sending them in circles. Sir, Krexhan's tactical officer shouted, we can't maneuver. Something is affecting local space. What do you mean? Krexhan demanded. The humans have somehow trapped us in gravity wells. We can't break free and we can't jump to hyperspace. It was true. The alien ships were caught like flies in invisible webs. They could still fight, but they couldn't run. And one by one, the human ships were picking them off. Commander Hyun-woo, still hidden in his stealth frigate, reported the situation. Admiral, the enemy fleet is completely trapped. They're sitting ducks now. Good, Deho replied. All ships begin Phase 2 of the operation. Let's finish this. Captain Taemin Kang, commanding the battlecruiser Iljimunduk, smiled as he received the order. His ship was the newest in the fleet, carrying experimental weapons that even his own crew barely understood. Charging the reality cannon, he announced to his bridge crew. His weapons officer looked nervous. Sir, are you sure? We've never tested it on live targets before. There's a first time for everything, Taemin replied. Target the enemy flagship. The weapon that powered up in the Iljimunduk was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It didn't fire energy or matter. Instead, it fired pure possibility, a beam that could rewrite the basic rules of physics in a small area. When it struck Vextar's flagship, strange things began to happen. The ship's armor turned into water. Its weapons became flowers. Its engines transformed into butterflies that flew away into space. The crew of the Bloodfang found themselves floating in what had once been their bridge, now filled with breathable air that sparkled with tiny lights. They were unharmed, but their ship was no longer a ship at all. Vexatar himself drifted in the strange space, his reptilian eyes wide with shock and fear. Around him, his mighty fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had thought was helpless. For the first time in his life, the supreme commander of the Vorthak Empire truly understood what it meant to be afraid. General Krexhan stood 7 feet tall on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Whisper. His black scales reflected the red lights of his weapon systems as they powered up. Behind him, the greatest warriors of the Vorthak Empire prepared for what they thought would be an easy victory. Status report, Krexhan commanded. All ships ready, General, replied his tactical officer, a smaller reptilian with green scales. The Crimson Talon's battle group is in perfect attack formation. 200 ships against their pathetic 43. Krexhan looked at the human fleet through his viewing screen. The enemy ships were small and white, looking like tiny toys compared to his massive red warships. Each of his vessels carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. The humans were brave to face them, but bravery wouldn't save them. They must be insane, Krexhan said. Or maybe they don't understand what they're facing. Supreme Commander Vextar's voice came through the communication system. General, you may begin the attack when ready. Make it quick. I want to be home for the victory celebration. Yes, my lord, Krexhan replied. Beginning attack now. But something was wrong. The human ships weren't running away. They weren't even moving into defensive positions. Instead, they seemed to be waiting. On the human destroyer Hwarang, Captain Min Ho Sung watched the alien formation through his ship's advanced sensors. The aliens were arranging themselves just like the computer models had predicted. No creativity. No caution. Just raw power and arrogance. They're making this too easy, Min Ho said to his crew. Look at that formation. It's perfect for what we have planned. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Yunji Beck, checked her systems one more time. Sir, all K-class particle accelerators are charged and ready. The quantum torpedoes are loaded, and the gravitic mines are in position. Good, Minho replied. Remember, everyone, they have no idea what's about to hit them. Commander Hyunwoo Jang, hiding his stealth frigate Arirang in the shadow of an asteroid, reported to Admiral Daeho. Sir, I'm reading their weapon signatures now. Standard plasma cannons, fusion missiles, and energy beams. Powerful, but nothing we haven't planned for. What about their shields? Daeho asked from his command center on Earth. Basic energy barriers, Hyunwoo replied. They'll stop normal weapons just fine. But our new toys should go through them like they're made of paper. Captain Ji-hai Yang, piloting the small corvette Dokdo, couldn't help but laugh. Sir, they're not even scanning us properly. If they were, they'd see that our ships aren't what they appear to be. She was right. The human fleet looked normal from the outside, but inside each ship was technology that the galaxy had never seen. Weapons that could bend space and time. Shields that worked in ways no alien scientist could understand. And secrets that Earth had been keeping for 20 years. Admiral Daeho opened a channel to all his ships. All captains, this is it. Everything we've trained for. Everything we've built. Today we show the galaxy that humans are not prey. From the battlecruiser Yulji Munduk, Captain Taimin Kang reported, Admiral, all experimental systems are online. We're ready to give these reptiles the surprise of their lives. Excellent, Daeho replied. Remember the plan. Let them fire first. Let them think they're winning. Then we show them what human science can really do. Back on the alien flagship, General Krexhan was getting impatient. Why are they just sitting there? Are they frozen with fear? Perhaps, General, his tactical officer said. Shall we put them out of their misery? Yes, target their largest ship. Full power on all forward weapons. The Death's Whisper turned toward the human flagship, the massive dreadnought Sejong the Great. Red energy began building in the alien weapons, growing brighter and brighter. The amount of power they were preparing to unleash could crack a planet. On Earth, Lieutenant Bo-Ra Park watched the energy readings spike on her screens. Sir, they're charging weapons. Massive power signature aimed at your ship. Admiral Daeho sat calmly in his chair. So-young, are you ready up there? Captain So-young Choi's voice came from the Tagak. Ready as we'll ever be, sir. All ships report quantum phase generators at full power. Good. All ships prepare for phase shift on my mark. The alien weapons reached full charge. Krexhan smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Fire! A beam of red energy shot across space toward the human dreadnought. It was powerful enough to cut through any known material, bright enough to blind anyone looking at it directly. It struck exactly where the Sejong the Great had been floating just a moment before, but the ship wasn't there anymore. What? Krexhan roared. Where did it go? His sensors showed nothing. The human ship had simply vanished. Not destroyed. Just gone as if it had never existed at all. Sir, his tactical officer said with a shaking voice, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations throughout the human formation. Something impossible is happening. All across the human fleet, the same thing was occurring. Ships were flickering in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Commander Hyunwoo, still hidden in his stealth ship, reported to his admiral. Phase shift successful on all vessels. We're now operating in quantum displacement. Their sensors can't track us and their weapons can't hit us. Admiral Daeho's voice came through the communication system, calm and confident. Excellent. All ships, you are now free to engage the enemy. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The human ships began to reappear, but not where the aliens expected. They materialized above, below, and around the alien formation. Ships that had been far away suddenly appeared right next to Vorthak vessels. The careful attack formation that Krexhan had arranged was now useless. Captain Minho, appearing directly above an alien cruiser, didn't waste time. Target locked. Firing K-class accelerators. The weapon that shot from the Warang wasn't like anything the galaxy had seen before. It didn't look like a beam or a missile. It looked like reality itself was bending, twisting the space around the alien ship. The Vorthak cruiser tried to turn, tried to raise shields, tried to escape. None of it mattered. The exotic particles from the human weapon passed through their shields as if they weren't there, passed through their armor as if it were air, and tore the ship apart at the molecular level. In 3 seconds, a ship that had taken years to build and had survived dozens of battles simply stopped existing. General Crexon watched in horror as more human ships appeared around his formation. Each time they fired, another of his vessels disappeared. Not exploded. Not damaged, just gone. All ships, he screamed into his communication system. Return fire.
Destroy them!
But how do you shoot at ships that keep disappearing? How do you fight an enemy that can appear anywhere, strike without warning, and vanish before you can respond? The humans were no longer the helpless mammals the aliens had expected to find. They were something much worse. They were predators who had been waiting patiently for prey to come to them. And the Vorthak Empire had just walked into the trap. The red ships came out of nowhere. They appeared in space like angry clouds blocking out the stars around Earth. Each ship was bigger than a city, covered in sharp spikes and glowing with evil red light. Supreme Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Blood Fang. His yellow eyes glowed in his reptilian face as he looked at the small blue planet through the viewing screen. This was going to be easy. Too easy, maybe. Another primitive world, Vextar said to his officers. His voice sounded like grinding metal. These mammals barely know how to fly between stars. We will crush them in minutes. The Vorthak Empire had done this many times before. They would arrive, demand surrender, and if the locals refused, they would burn their cities to ash. 17 worlds had already fallen to their red ships. 17 worlds now served the Empire or lay dead in space. General Crexon, Vextar's best warrior, stepped forward. He was even bigger than his commander, with black scales and claws that could cut through steel. My lord, shall I prepare the surrender message? Yes, Vextar replied. Give them the usual terms. Bow down or die. On Earth, in an underground command center in Seoul, Admiral Dae-ho Kim sat at a large table covered with glowing screens. He was a small man with gray hair, but his eyes were sharp and alert. Around him sat his best officers, all watching the alien ships through their satellites. Sir, said Captain Bo-Ra Park, a young woman with short black hair, we're getting a message from the alien fleet. It's being translated now. The message appeared on the main screen in perfect Korean. People of Earth, you will surrender now or face total destruction. You have one of your hours to decide. Resist and every city on your world will burn. The room went quiet. Some of the younger officers looked scared, but Admiral Dae-ho just smiled a little. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a wolf makes when it sees sheep. How many ships do they have? Dae-ho asked. Lieutenant Woo Jin-lee checked his screens. 200 vessels, sir. All of them are massive. Their smallest ship is 5 times bigger than our largest. And they think we're helpless, Dae-ho said quietly. How interesting. Captain So Young Choi's voice came through the radio from her ship in orbit. Admiral, this is the Taeguk. We can see them clearly now. They're not even trying to hide. They think this is going to be simple. Maybe it will be, Dae-ho replied. Just not in the way they expect. Bo-Ra looked confused. Sir, how can we fight them? They have 200 ships. We only have 43. Dae-ho stood up slowly. He walked to the big window that showed the night sky above Seoul. Up there he could see tiny red dots among the stars. The enemy fleet was so big that their ships blocked out whole sections of space. Bo-Ra, he said without turning around. Do you remember what happened to the last people who thought humans were weak? She thought for a moment. They learned they were wrong, sir. Exactly. Dae-ho turned back to his officers. These aliens look at us and see primitive mammals who just learned to fly between stars. They see easy prey. He walked back to the table and pressed a button. New screens lit up showing information that made several officers gasp. Ship designs they had never seen before, weapons that looked impossible, technology that seemed like magic. They don't know about Project Deep Strike, Dae-ho continued. They don't know about our quantum research. They don't know that human scientists have been working day and night for 20 years. Preparing for this exact moment, Commander Hyun-woo Jang, who commanded one of their stealth ships, spoke up from his hidden position near the moon. Sir, I'm watching their formation. They're not taking any defensive positions. They're arranging themselves for attack, but they're leaving themselves completely open. Of course they are, Dae-ho said. They've probably never fought anyone who could hurt them. Why would they be careful? The alien message played again. You have 50 minutes remaining to surrender. Dae-ho walked over to the communication panel. Open a channel to all fleet commanders. One by one, the voices of Earth's best captains came through the speakers. So Young from the Taiguk, Minho from the destroyer Hwarang, Taemin from the battlecruiser Yulji Mundeok, Ji-hai from the small but deadly corvette Dokdo. Each one ready, each one waiting. My friends, Daeho said to them all, today we face an enemy that thinks we are nothing. They come to our home with threats and demands. They believe we will fall to our knees and beg for mercy. He paused, looking around at his officers in the command center. All of them were watching him now, waiting for his words. They are about to learn something new about humanity. We don't kneel. We don't beg. And we definitely don't make it easy for bullies who come to our home uninvited. The main screen showed a countdown timer, 30 minutes until the aliens expected their answer. All ships, Daeho continued, prepare for Operation Surprise Party. I want every experimental weapon charged and ready. I want every new system online. And I want our guests to get exactly what they deserve. From orbit, So Young's voice carried a note of excitement. Sir, all ships report ready. The aliens are still just sitting there waiting. Let them wait, Daeho replied. Bora, send them a message. What should it say, sir? Daeho's smile grew a little wider. It was still not a nice smile. Tell them we'll give them our answer in person. The message went out across space to the red alien ships. Supreme Commander Vextar read it and laughed, a sound like breaking glass. They want to deliver their surrender in person, he told his officers. How pathetic. They probably think they can bargain with us. But something strange was happening on the alien sensors. The human ships, which had been hiding behind their moon, were starting to move. They came around the curve of the moon in perfect formation. 43 ships against 200. Look at them, General Krexhan said. So few, so small. This will be easier than destroying a nest of insects. The alien weapons began to charge with red light. Soon they would fire, and the human ships would simply disappear. At least that's what they thought would happen. Down on Earth, Admiral Daeho watched his ships move into position. 20 years of secret research. 20 years of preparing for this day. The aliens thought they knew what humans could do. They were about to find out how wrong they were.